Hi, everybody at home, working hard and doing all your school from home. This is Heidi Stemple. I am the author of the book Counting Birds, which is a nonfiction about the Audubon Christmas bird count. And if you did not tune in to me reading yesterday, you might want to go back to hear me reading that book for you because I promised I would be here every day this week. And I will be talking about different subjects having to do with citizen science and counting birds. And today I want to talk about my favorite subject in the whole wide world, owls. Now, if you tuned in yesterday, you heard the page that starts out. I have to find it now. It says, the owlers. The owlers, see them? The owlers were the first ones in the field. They climb out of their warm beds at midnight and call down owls in the dark. By the light of the moon, they raise their hands to their mouths and whistle. They use recordings of real owls to hoot. They wait and listen. When an owl calls back, the owlers mark their maps and move on to the next spot. Now that might be my favorite page in this entire book because I'm one of those people who goes out owling. I am an owler for the Audubon Christmas bird count. And even if you didn't know that about me, you might have known my story because I have been owling since I was a very little girl. And you might have read this book, Owl Moon, which is by Jane Yolen with illustrations by John Schoner. And this is a very special book for me because here, this is Pa, and that's my dad, David Stemple. And that little girl is me. Jane Yolen is my mom, an author herself, and she wrote this book about our family story. So every day this week, I'm going to give you some activities having to do with my video about counting birds. And today we're going to talk about owlers. So at the end of this video, if you want to go to my website, it is www.heidieystemple.com. You will find our activity for today, and that's going to have to do with owls. But I wanted to tell you a little bit about what I do for owling. Now, just like the book, it says that I wake up at midnight and get out of my warm bed during the Christmas bird count night at midnight. It's very cold because I live in Massachusetts. Some of you may live in cold climates, but some of you may live in warm climates. And if you are in Georgia or Florida or Texas, your owlers may not be as cold as the owlers where I am. But I do get out of bed at midnight, and where it said they raise their hands to their mouths to whistle, and they use recordings of real owls to call. Those are two things that I do. I do both of those things to call owls. Now, I have a group of owlers that I call the OMG. That is the Owl Moon Gang. That's what we call ourselves. And we go out at midnight. And we come back at about 7:30 in the morning when the sun starts to come up. And on my best night with my OMG, we called down 67 owls. Now that's a lot of owls, right? That means I'm a pretty good owler. Do you guys want to call owls with me? I thought today we could call owls here on this video together. I wish that I could hear you all calling. But I'm going to teach you guys to call some of the owls that are where I live. You ready? Gonna start with the great horned owl. He's a handsome guy, isn't he? This is a big owl, and I call these guys out in the woods. And so I'm gonna start by calling the great horned owl, and maybe you guys in your houses will call with me. All right, ready? The great horned owl sounds like you think an owl will sound. He says he hoots, and he sounds like this. Ooh, 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 ooh. All right, it's your turn. You guys try. You guys be the great horned owl. All right, are you ready for another owl? Okay, The next owl that I'm going to teach you to call is called the barred owl. And he looks like this. Isn't he pretty? He's named after the bars, barred owl, the bars on his fur, on his, he doesn't have fur, on his feathers. And he says something sort of funny. What he says is, who cooks for you? Who cooks for you all? That's how you can remember what he says. He sounds like this. Can you guys do that? I wish I could hear you. All right, so I have another owl call. This is my favorite guy of all. And remember when I said in the book, they raise their hands to whistle? Well, that is this little guy. This is a little tiny owl called the Eastern Screech Owl. There is also a Western Screech Owl, but where I live in the East, we have a lot of the Eastern Screech Owl. And he sounds like this. Can you guys try that one? All right, I have one more owl. This is a lot of people's favorite owl. And he has a very, very difficult to do type of call. So we're going to try this one last, okay? So this is the snowy owl. Are you ready to try the snowy owl? All right, this one's hard. I know lots of students have a tough time when I'm in their school doing this one. Are you ready? He sounds like this. That's actually what he sounds like. Snowy owls are very quiet. Can you do it? I think you probably did a really good job. Now, I hope that you guys are going to practice owl calling at home. Can I tell you a funny story about owls? Now, on the first day that my dad taught my daughter Madison to owl, she was about 8 years old. And we all went out into the woods, and Madison was calling for an owl. She was hooting for an owl. And after she hooted, she listened. And no owls called back. But that's because she was calling in the middle of the day. And most owls are nocturnal, which means they sleep all day and they hunt at night. So if you call an owl during the day, if you go out there right now and try and call an owl during the day, it makes the other birds quite nervous because they think that there's an owl awake, and owls are predators. So sometimes if you try calling an owl during the day, other birds call back because they're calling to their friends saying, hey, there's an owl awake, everybody be very careful. But on the first day that Madison went out and attempted to call an owl, the bird that called back was a turkey. Now I have something very special here. I have my dad's turkey call, because I don't really do turkey calls, I only do owl calls, but this makes a turkey noise. And a gobble. So that's my funny story. I have to tell you, I have a cat who's sitting right over there, and he is very nervous now because he thinks there's a turkey in the house. So I'm going to leave you for today, but I'll be back tomorrow. I want you to go to my website, which is www.HeidiEYStemple.com. And on my website, if you go to books and then click on Counting Birds, you will find all of the worksheets that you can do. And today's is going to have some places where you can go to hear more owl calls. It's going to ask you what your favorite owl is. It's going to remind you of all the owls that we called today and show you where you can listen to them online. And it has some fun owl facts on it. So I hope you guys have a good owl day, and I will see you tomorrow.